Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Brief Trek. My name is Trent. I will be your host for the evening. Joining me, as always, is my incredible co-host Annie. How are you doing?
I don't know how to answer that question after this episode.
I know,
I am
right?
like all over the place today.
Just all the emotions.
Oh, every emotion was felt in the last 45 minutes.
All the emotions.
Oh my gosh. Where do we even start?
I know. I feel like we ask that
Where
every time too.
where do we start?
Do we start from the beginning, or do we start with the crazy reveal at the end?
Let's save it. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay. All right.
Oh man.
Okay. So let me pull up my notes. I don't know. I don't have them up already.
Yeah.
Okay. So Uh, initial thoughts: the scene opens. They're on the bridge, and Giorgio is being a biatch
Yeah. Oh
to
man.
everyone.
Yeah, so many corrections and stuff, and I mean, I get that she's used to, she's the emperor. She's used to getting her own way. I'm sure that the people who work under her know how she likes things done,
Right,
and she's kind of having to break in a whole bunch of new people, or new to her, this Giorgio.
right.
Um, what it like holy tenseness, there were some furtive looks given to each other. There was some um almost like big reveals, like that whole interaction between her and Burnham about like where she grew up. I
Right.
was like, ooh, I don't do you, and I thought maybe this was going to be like a dream that she had because she was frustrated or something. Like, I honestly didn't think that she would speak to Giorgio that way because she's the captain in this moment. And because it was so imperative that they keep her presence a secret. Um, but you could tell, well, and especially after that comment that she made about like a scared Kelpian is a tough Kelpian or whatever,
Oh my
you could
god.
tell everyone was so horrified, especially Saru. But I love that Saru didn't back down, even though this woman is like, yeah, I eat your brethren for breakfast. Like, you know,
Oh yeah, he leaned into it. I loved that.
yeah, that was
He's
so
like
a very satisfying
very
moment.
tough. Like
Yeah.
some find me
Some say
unpalatable.
unpalatable. Such a good line. That is like top line from this week.
Saru just continues to be my favorite overall, and like,
Yeah. Well,
ah,
his growth over this whole season has
oh man,
been so incredible because he went from like, I kind of didn't like him in the beginning. His whole like sibling rivalry thing with Burnham, I was like, ew, like save, like keep that off the bridge, please. But
right?
then it was like, okay, okay. He kind of came into his own, especially um, when he became number one. So, um, I think that kind of gave him a boost of confidence, um, and kind of changed the way that he reacts to people around him,
Yeah,
especially when Burnham was stripped of her rank and everything like that. He could have been gloating like crazy over there, but instead he kind of, he was very sympathetic to her.
yeah.
And but I love that he doesn't back down from a fight anymore. I think that's awesome.
It's fantastic. I loved
Yeah.
all of it. So we move from there to Giorgio like beating on Laurel in the brig.
Yeah, I understand in war that like things get desperate, like stuff happens, but that was so beyond, like, you just don't do that.
Well, no, that's just
And
being
I
messed up.
felt
It's
for
like,
Burnham. I was like, okay, yeah, good. I'm glad you said something, Burnham, because I want to say something, but you can't hear me. So,
right? Well, it's like, do you like? She used to Klingons breaking in her universe. Like, I feel like Laurel was just gonna keep getting hit until she was dead. Like,
well, we kind of saw that when she just started laughing, right? Like,
right?
she's like, yeah, like, you're not going to get my secrets. Um,
And I
I
feel
think,
like,
oh, go ahead.
well, and then we find out Philippa has read about Ash Tyler and then whatnot, and the reports and all that stuff. Like, why
Yeah.
didn't they just go to him?
Right. Yeah. It's almost like an excuse to beat up on Laurel, kind of.
Right. I
And
think
while
she just,
she's not my favorite, but I don't think she deserved that.
yeah, I think maybe Philippa was trying to get her violence uh,
Mm-hmm.
fix or whatever.
Yeah. Well, they're so used to, those booths where anyone who doesn't do exactly what they want, goes in the booth and they get tortured.
Right.
So I think, violence is the go-to method, like hurt first, ask questions of other people later. um but I am glad that they kind of utilized Ash.
Yeah.
And we
Same.
really got to see him do something nice for the Federation to like make up for it, because I honestly don't feel like Ash himself has something to make up for. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But I also feel like he was able to prove his worth and his value to the Federation again, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I liked how he was just kind of ignoring them and like working on that sailor's knot the whole time. And he
Yeah.
kind of referenced like, this it helps me, it reminds me of my humanity or whatever. And I
Mhm. Mhm.
was like, oh, like he's literally making a new tether. Like,
I thought the same thing. Yeah, exactly. A literal tether. That's exactly what it is.
so
Yeah.
awesome.
I teach that not to my scuba students.
Oh, nice.
It's an excellent one. It's a very strong knot, so I thought that was pretty fitting.
That's really cool. Um,
Yeah,
although
that's
this is
so
kind of
funny.
off. We're skipping ahead a little bit, but like it just reminded me of that line from Burnham where he mentioned something about like dogs on water skis, and she's like, "Did you come up with that just now?" He's like, "No, I used to water ski." She's like, "You have a boat, I get it." Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's so random of a line, and a little petty, but I thought it was really funny.
I know. Well, I think she's still working through her emotions surrounding Ash
Oh yeah,
and
for
his
sure.
actions. So I kind of expected that, honestly, that there would be something. She would just kind of give a little jab, like, "Okay, you kind of hurt me. Like, this is me being a little bit petty, but it makes me feel a little better about the situation and the fact that we have to work together and be together."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I love that he was able to, like give them information about the Klingons, and
hmm.
I mean, like, it's still so weird thinking that like Federation intel is like a century old on
Oh, I
everything.
know.
Like, it's just so weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, can you imagine the black market Vulcan charts? Like, what are the Vulcans doing black market anything?
right? Like, I am here for a map.
Yeah. Gotta wear the beanie. That's like the ultimate Vulcan cover.
Oh man, I wonder if they painted their skin green and like
I know.
cover their ears. So okay, skip to when Tilly comes into the room, and the Emperor just doesn't even pretend. She just starts talking about the old Killy
That was a little
from
awkward.
the Killy
Poor
that she
Tilly
knew.
too. She was like, "What?"
I love the little salute she does when she finds out who that's the Emperor, and Burnham's like, "Don't do that."
Yeah,
She
yeah.
does the like Terran salute,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Is that? Yep. Uh huh. Okay.
Okay then. Yep. And then you see her, she's kind of nervous. She talks a lot, right? So
Right. That was great.
that was so funny. Yeah. But I like that. I mean, even so, we're not in the mirror universe anymore. Tilly is no longer the captain of the ISS Discovery or anything. She's
Right.
really gone back to herself, which I like because that kind of stays true to who she is. She's not this, pompous, heartless person.
Right.
She's this caring, kind of nervous, kind of gawky, awkward
I love.
person.
She like stole the show for me.
Yes, I love
Again,
her.
from
I
the time
know.
like when she shows up and she's like she points the gun at the Orion's nose and she's like all tough. She's like, if you don't like do whatever, you're gonna be breathing out the back of your head or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, Tilly. Like,
I know.
but then
Speaking
like
of the
she goes right back
Orions,
to being like super timid again.
I
Oh
know.
man, oh the Orions were so cool.
I know. I was like, okay, it's good to know that they haven't really changed much,
Nope,
you know.
slavers, pirates, uh,
Exactly.
you know, whatever you want on that.
Yeah, we got to see the Orion dancers. We got a little thievery going on, which is how we kind of discovered that the The
Yeah.
drone was not the drone, and
The,
we got to see Tilly high.
oh my gosh. Okay, so like before we leave the dancers real quick, so
Okay.
a little more risque than I was expecting.
Yeah, they were not that not clothed in the original series, so I
Right?
was expecting a little more on the skin to clothing ratio.
Yeah, like I mean, not quite HBO level there, but like
Right, right.
definitely table.
Yeah, that's not.
Like with the dancers
Yeah.
slash prostitutes.
They're in like thongs. Well, and
Yeah.
that's the thing too. Like, yeah, everyone makes fun of the Orion slave girls, like they're promiscuous or whatever. But yeah, that was unexpected. They're on a mission, and here's Giorgio over there in bed with two of them. I'm like, whoa,
Yep.
what? Okay, we got a little distracted here.
Right. Yeah, so that was pretty
Oh
cool. And then
man,
yeah, Tilly, I swear I recognize the Orion that she was talking to, and I don't know who that guy is, but
we'll
I
have to
know I've seen
IMDb
him
it.
like in something, like from the
Hmm.
'90s or something. Like I swear his face just looks really familiar. But anywho, yeah, she gets high on volcano ash or lava
Yeah,
fumes.
I didn't buy that. That's what it was. I think he kind of gave that as an excuse, but I mean, I
Okay.
could be wrong. I don't know. It
I
just
mean,
because
she
he's
said her
sprinkling stuff on that. It wasn't like it was coming up from the core, like he said.
right,
So it was kind of maybe
but
a
she did
mix
say that
with some
her
stuff.
yeah, she did say her mouth tasted like ash and sulfur.
Sulfur. Mm-hmm.
Some kind of drug that got her high, and she just passes
Yeah.
out
Well,
immediately.
she just, yeah, it wasn't even like she was like high immediately. She just zonked out.
Oh, but backing up a little bit, when she goes aside to the little meat stand or whatever,
Oh,
and
right,
she's
right.
talking with Burnham, and I thought that
Uh-huh.
whole thing, like getting her to come aside and like kind of like reading her friend really well, because it shows like
Yeah.
how close they've come,
Yeah.
and it was really nice and
Well,
sweet.
and did you notice when she offered, she's like, "Well, I've got your back." She got in between Burnham and Tyler, almost like a protection kind of thing.
I did notice
Like,
that it was super sweet.
yeah, yeah, I thought that was not that maybe she needs protection from him, but in
Right.
her mind, maybe she does. And so I think Tilly was just being, extra kind and aware of how awkward this might be for Burnham.
Yeah, I think that was really cool. So yeah, back forward when she wakes up from being high and the guy's like laser cutting the thing off of her wrist, and she's
Yeah,
I
I'm
love
an
how the first
Orion.
thing she does when she wakes up, she's like, "Shame on you,"
Yeah,
or
I
something like
know.
that, or like, "How dare you," or something. Super like Tilly is great, and then
Yeah.
she calls Burnham, and she's like, "Okay, I'm really high, but you need to listen to
Yeah. Well, my favorite, she's like checking the contents and she's just like, "Oh shit, that's not this is not
yeah,
a drone.
this
This
is
is
not
not
a
a
drone."
drone."
Yeah,
Uh,
she's super
so
smart. I like
funny.
that.
Yep, yep. Oh, yeah, that was hysterical. I know, I was kind of worried that, I mean, because Giorgio basically knocks her out.
Yeah.
I was worried that she was gonna like get killed or something. I don't know. I had just this terrible feeling about it. And then we find out that Giorgio has taken the bomb into the tunnel and she's gonna detonate it. Um, but in the middle of that, like before we actually get to see um, you know, anything with the Klingons and Giorgio at all or Cornwell, we get Michael's parents' backstory that I thought was
Oh
really
man,
special
that was
and
rough.
very, very rough. Yeah, tough to listen to, tough to hear. Um, and you start to understand exactly why, fully, like not only just because Vogue tried to kill her, but her distrust of Klingons, maybe some deep emotions that are, subconscious or anything, where those are stemming from
Yeah,
this incredible trauma, that she has faced. Um, that would certainly shape her feelings for them, regardless of, any good intentions. You can't not feel for her.
yeah, for sure.
um, but yeah, that was very intense.
It reminded me a little bit of I don't know, and I don't know why I didn't think about this sooner because we've known the general story this whole time. but
Right.
kind of like Kirk and his feelings towards the Klingons.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, we
I've never
got
been able to forgive them for the death of my son stuff,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
it's
the
pretty
well,
cool that she still, after all this time, like, and everything that's happened, like, she doesn't hate them. And I wonder if part of that's because of her
right.
Vulcan upbringing.
I feel like that could be part of it, but I feel like also there's just unresolved, well, I don't know about unresolved feelings. I think she just doesn't know what to do with them, and she's
Yeah,
just not a hateful person. And so she's like, "Well, I don't hate you, but like if we could avoid each other, that'd probably be like her best preferred method of dealing with them would be just to not hang out with them or see them or have to handle with them."
yeah,
Um, but I think it would be incredibly difficult not to hate them if you saw, like, literally saw your parents murdered. You're hiding in this cabinet or whatever, and you hear them just like kill your dad, and then
yeah.
they like torture your mom. Like that would have incredibly lasting effects on a person,
Well,
Vulcan or not. So
yeah, and I'm assuming that there was some unsaid things that they did to her mother as well.
I believe so. Yeah,
I just can't imagine like hearing that
oh
and
yeah,
coming out of all that. I just it's crazy.
that would not be. I don't know how she handled that.
Yeah. So this whole scene is going on in like this futuristic tattoo parlor.
Yeah,
Those were super cool. A random side note, but like being able to like touch the
yeah.
tattoo and have like the colors like spread from the middle, it was so
Oh,
cool.
I know.
I
Yeah,
would
that was
totally get a
way
giant
cool.
tattoo like that if I
I
could.
would too.
Oh
Uh,
man. So this whole like situation in general, we touched upon this last week because it's the same theme that's basically been going the entire season, and obviously it
mhm.
comes to a big head in the finale.
Yeah,
And that's the like how far is too far for survival? Like,
right,
do your morals matter if you're dead?
right.
And it's a really interesting question. Like, I don't know. Like, if I was in the same situation, would I have done any differently than Sarek or Admiral Cornwell?
Yeah.
It is Cornwell, right?
Yeah, Cornwell. I feel like like
It's really hard.
on the one hand you have like the Federation, but I feel like killing everyone is just not the answer.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just one if there's people who are like let's say all those Klingons who are away from Kronos right now, that's just going to make them even madder, even more determined. If you just destroy their planet,
yeah,
that's not going to solve anything. Those problems are still going to come back because they're going to settle somewhere else. They're going to make themselves stronger and then they're going to come after you again.
yeah,
So you have to be more creative. I mean, is it a quick fix? Yeah. Would it have ended the war? Probably for at least another decade or so, maybe until they got stronger.
right.
But, ultimately, that's not going to solve anything. And to draw a parallel, I remember hearing like when I was first in the military, this is 2007. um, some people had that same sentiment about the Middle East. Said, why don't we just like fry all these people, like
Oh yeah, I've heard.
level it, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore. And I said, do you have any idea like how stupid you sound? Like, I mean, honestly, like if you think about it, you have all these other. I mean, think about it in terms of the Klingons, right? Like, let's say they bombed the heck out of Kronos. Okay, they have ships in the air, they're still able to escape, like they said that in the transmission, like, well, some of them could get away, it's not like they'd totally die in an instant. This isn't like the
Right.
JJ films, right, where you know Romulus was destroyed in a matter of seconds. No one had, or Vulcan and Romulus were destroyed in a matter of seconds, where no one had any ability to escape. Barely, they had barely enough people getting out of there
Yeah,
to continue the species pretty much. um this isn't that situation. This is going to take days. People are going to get off planet. That's not going to solve anything to kill a bunch of you're going to kill all the people who have no resources, not the people who have the resources. People who have the resources are going to get out of there.
yeah,
So you're not fixing the problem. You're only poking the hornet's nest with a stick. So that was my feeling on that. And although I will say, I say this not being at war, not being anything like that. If I was in war and I had the chance to end it, who knows? I mean, there's no way to say for sure until you're in that situation. But I
Yeah,
would like to think that my morality and my own uh I feel I have a kind heart. um I don't think that it would allow me to make that kind of decision. And although I understand how it came across in Discovery, because you have Sarek, who is incredibly logical. He sees this maybe as like a means to an end kind of
yeah.
thing. Okay, strike now, immense show of force, right? Vulcan, goodbye, basically. And,
So,
you know, and
yeah,
Cornwell's happy because she wants her revenge too. So, everyone kind of gets their immediate satisfaction, but they're not thinking long term there.
yeah, for sure. I
Craziness, though.
and it's a really good discussion, and I like that it makes you really think about it.
That's what I love about Star Trek is you can have these conversations about literally anything. Like you can relate it to anything happening in the world nowadays, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah,
Even episodes from 20, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. I mean, gosh, we just had the 50th anniversary,
yeah,
here we are still talking about it, still using it as a way to explore our own morality and humanity and our own cultures.
yeah. It's super cool.
Mhm.
So what did you think of Saru's well, Burnham's speech to the admiral, and then Saru's like, "We are Starfleet." Like, I thought that I got chills.
I did too. Oh, and when everyone started standing up and was supporting that, I was like, okay, this is why Saru is such a good captain.
I know, right? We're gonna get to
He's
that.
an excellent captain. Yeah, I love
So good.
seeing him lead. He has great leadership skills.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And you
So
can really see that the ship is loyal to him, you know.
yeah, for sure. So what did you think about the final confrontation between Burnham and Giorgio?
Intense. I like how she did it though. It wasn't, well, we have no option. You can either like fight me or I'll kill you. Like, no, there was like this third option that no one really considered, which was give it to the people who are most desperate and let them unite their own race instead of like Federation swooping in there and trying to fix everything in one fell swoop.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, I was a little bit, and this kind of leads into my next question too, is about giving the bomb code or and the detonator to Lorel.
Yeah.
Uh, like to me, I mean, I get that honor is a really big thing for them, but she's also like the house of like deception and all that stuff. So
Right, right. I
what
thought it
was
an interesting choice
yeah, like what was to stop
for
her
sure.
from just destroying the detonator and then being like, yeah, go kill Earth, we win.
I
I
think
foiled this plot. Like, allow me back into the stuff or whatever.
I think her devotion to Takuvma was so immense that her own morality wouldn't have allowed her to do that because she had honor and devotion to Takuvma, who thought that he could unite all of the houses. Um, it was only in the middle of the war that they all decided, they all started warring, they all wanted their own stuff. She saw that as a great unifier um, for the Klingon people. And I think her own morality, she saw that almost as like a gift from Takuvma, kind of, in my opinion.
Huh? I can see that.
Hmm.
Um,
But it's a complicated situation, though. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're putting a lot of faith in someone A who really like hates you,
right,
and B who you just like kicked the crap out of, so they're probably not that forgiving towards you or your
right,
federation or anyone who's associated with the federation. And then you have this incredibly dangerous situation happening where, okay, let's say she gets mad, someone flings the detonator thing, it accidentally goes off, like everybody dies, you know what I mean? Like
right.
there's just a
Yeah,
lot of different ways that this could go, and not all of them are positive.
yeah, this. I mean, the whole episode was insane.
Yeah.
Um, so that being aside, it all kind of comes to a head, and George, like, she basically just like talks Giorgio out of it. Uh,
Well, she kind of threatens her out of it. It wasn't even really like a
what?
talk. It was like either you give it to them or like you can, either you can kill me or you can give it to them. Either and then be hunted. Like
Right?
kill me and be hunted or give this to the Klingons.
I love
You
that
know.
line when she was like, "You'll have to kill me," and she like pulls the gun to her chest, which was
Ooh, yeah.
super ballsy and awesome and
Well, and
incredible.
I got a little scared because it's the Emperor.
Right?
But
She would
then
totally
she's
kill
like,
you.
"You'll have to see me die a second time," and it was like, "Ooh,
That
okay,
was
she's
pretty
not
good.
gonna do it."
And then she's like, "Did I mention the hunted by the Federation part?"
Yeah, hunted for the rest of your days. I
Oh,
just
that
love
was
how
super funny.
totally quick and like on her feet I mean, her thought process is so quick and she
Yeah.
is so genius with how she weaves these plans. Um and keeps it, close to the chest. She's not revealing all these secrets. She's not doing it like for her own gain. She's doing this to better the Federation in like any way she can, and kind of force Giorgio in a way that she wasn't able to with Prime Giorgio. She tried to kind of force her with the neck pinch, right? She was going to just kind of take her out and make that decision at the Battle of the Binary Stars. And then this time she kind of gets a second chance to do it.
Yeah.
Where nobody has to die, she just needs to make the right decision and she gets to either be hunted or give it up. And I'm glad that she chose to just give it up. Although she kind of slunk away and she's kind of, you know, do we know where she went? Do we know where she's off to? It seemed like she was
Nah.
just going to stay on Konos. I don't know.
I'm assuming we'll see her again next season.
I I kind of hope so. She
I'd be
was an
surprised.
interesting character addition to the last part of this season. So,
Yeah. And how fun must have Michelle Yeoh have had to like
oh
play
my gosh,
these two different
yes.
characters?
I saw an Instagram post from her today, of her getting into her emperor getup. So it's like her in these big sunglasses with like her wavy hair and stuff, and then it kind of goes into like her in part of her uniform with her straight like slicked hair, and she has this like fierce look on her face, and then it's her in her emperor robe kind of from the side, and she looks badass. Like she looks so good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she said she's been having a great time on Discovery.
Good. Maybe we'll see her and Mud back again next season.
I hope so. That would be interesting. I know Rainn Wilson did an amazing job as Mud. He was perfect.
So the episode finishes, and kind of like the whole thing ends much quicker than I was expecting. And I don't know if it was too quick or not, but I feel pretty good about it.
I feel good about it. I mean, it wrapped up a lot of different loose ends kind of. I mean, it was quick. I actually thought that this was going to maybe be like a 2-hour thing and
Well,
then
I thought
realized
maybe it was
like,
going to end in a
oh, it's going to be
cliffhanger.
45 minutes.
Yeah,
But
I thought we might get a cliffhanger.
we kind of did, but not in the
Wow,
way that I expected.
that's true. I thought it was going to be Klingon related cliffhanger.
Right, right, right.
Oh man. Okay,
Well,
let's keep going so we
we
can get to that.
we kind
Uh,
of got a Klingon. I mean, we don't know exactly what happened, except for that they seem to be uniting.
right. Them pulling
Um,
away from Earth, like we know the war is over.
right, right. But we're not quite sure how that's gonna shake out. I mean, we know how it ends in like other series. The Klingons, they still have the houses and stuff like that, but they're united under like the Klingon Council and stuff like that.
Right.
Led by one specific Klingon. Um, but it's interesting to see the beginning of that, and I like that.
Yeah,
How
for
did you
sure.
feel about Ash leaving with Laurel?
I was pretty upset with that. I mean, I understand that he feels like he doesn't belong in either world, and like maybe he can kind of make it
Yeah,
in the between kind of worlds. But
yeah.
I just feel like they did him so wrong. Like he helped them so much, and obviously it was his choice. But like I would have been like, no, come back to the Federation, and
Right.
we'll help
Well,
you
because I'm
figure it
sure that
out.
they could have used a lot of that information that he had inside his mind
Oh yeah, like
for good,
maybe he was
Hey,
worried that they
write a
were gonna
bunch of
like
reports, tell us all about this,
yeah, maybe they were gonna like put him in a lab or something to try to figure out like the technology behind what was done.
Could be.
But
It's just that to me, it didn't feel like it's the last time we're gonna see him. I feel like we're gonna see more of
yeah,
him.
I hope he'll. I if he doesn't come back next season, I'll be surprised
Yeah, I would be sad about that because I love his character. It's very deep. The character has a lot of depth. So,
for sure. And
yep.
then I yeah, I mean he could have been like the Federation expert on Klingons and like given so much
Yeah, they could have
information.
put him to work.
Like write like you were saying, write these reports. Like tell us what we don't know and what we have wrong and
Yeah.
anyway. So she comes back to Earth. She meets her mom in Paris.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so awesome.
Loved it. Wait, before we move on, I just have to say, Isaac, for your thoughts. I literally started crying.
So I don't understand that reference, and maybe I need to turn my Star Trek card back in. But
It's a no. This is like just a Discovery thing. When he was sitting in like their cafeteria like 10 forward thing, she approached him and said, "Isaac, for your thoughts." And he said, "What's an Isaac?" And she said, "I actually don't know, like it's an old Vulcan saying, like it's kind of like a
oh,
Vulcan penny for your thoughts." And so when he said it to her, it was like, "Oh, okay." Like,
okay,
oh my gosh.
I got it.
So, and she said, "Yeah, I never really found out what that was." That's a bummer.
That's funny.
But yeah, so she kind of turned it, she kind of brought it back around, and I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah,
Um, because it kind of showed that she was softening towards him, that she was kind of playing on one of their little inside jokes, kind of. So,
yeah, that's cool.
yeah, so that made me a little emotional.
So
But yeah,
she,
so all speaking of emotional, we get to see Amanda and Sarek on
yes,
Earth, meeting Burnham, and holy crap, Sarek calls her his daughter. She calls him father.
yes.
Amanda says like, "Well, it's what a mother does," or whatever, and I'm like, oh, "They're a little happy family, okay."
Well, yeah, and I loved her little like you always told me to not let go of my humanity, and I never understood what that
Yeah,
meant, but now I get it,
yeah.
and that was really cool.
Mhm.
Um,
Sometimes you gotta go through some, like, deep stuff to understand what your parents are actually talking about.
yeah. Well, and I love that like Burnham's story basically is she's full circle from the very pilot
Yeah.
to, she was ready to do whatever it took to survive. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and she
protect
admits that
Starfleet
in her
from all.
speech to Starfleet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
super cool. So she gets her badge back from her dad, and
Loved it.
super sweet.
Mhm.
And then she's giving that speech at Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
It looked like Starfleet Academy anyway. Like,
That's what I assumed it was,
okay,
being that kind of, they've got representatives from different areas of the Federation. She was handed back her medal, her, comm
um,
badge kinda thing,
and they all got
Um
medals.
Yeah, and
Love that they
she
all
got,
got
like, a
medals.
Medal of Honor. Mhm.
Yeah, well, all of them had medals too. And then like
Yeah,
Stamets was holding Hugh's medal. I was gonna start
I
crying.
got emotional on that too. I was like,
Medical
"No."
officer Colbert, Hugh Colbert. I
Yeah,
was like, no, come
yeah,
back.
I know.
Like, bring him back next season somehow.
I honestly don't think that's the last we saw of him. I don't think it is. I think we're gonna see more of him somehow.
I hope so.
Yeah, they were too cute. I would be really sad if they were gone
That'd be
or
super
completely.
sad.
Um, and then Tilly gets accepted to the command program.
Not only that, she's an ensign now. Did you hear that they called
Yes.
her Ensign Tilly? I was like,
Uh
yeah.
huh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Love it.
she's in the command training program, and
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm so excited.
Saru is the first Kelpian for the Medal of Honor. Loved that too.
Yes, that was great.
Everyone is being rewarded. And
Yeah,
I just really liked that because they went through hell and back to get to where they were. So
yeah.
thought that
Uh,
was great.
That was so awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, so then we go, and her speech was good. I got chills during the
That was
speech.
excellent. Yeah, I definitely did too.
I loved the yes after all
Yeah.
the no's and everything. Like it was just it was well written.
Yeah.
Uh,
Very, very powerful.
so then they go. I have one little uh, remark that
Uh-huh.
I'm frustrated about,
Oh,
mainly
okay.
just in the story choice. And when Saru is like, I'd like to accompany you to Vulcan, where where you're going to pick up your new captain. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Why the freak, after all of this, is Saru not the new captain?
I agree. Okay, I've been meaning to. I wanted to say this since the
I was
very
like,
beginning,
justice
but yeah,
for
I'm like,
Saru.
yeah. Have you not? Has he not proved himself? Like he's ready. Like give him the discovery. He's fine.
Yeah, like he brought them back. Like freaking Kirk went from a cadet to captain, and
I know. Seriously, what
like
else does he need to prove?
seriously, oh, it's ridiculous.
I had really hoped that they would make Saru the captain. Yeah.
And I'm kind of hoping now that that was. I mean, so flip side, I love that he is still like just so proper when they're like captain on deck, and he's like acting captain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
He's
oh,
kind of keeping it real.
oh, Saru, you're adorable.
I
Like,
know.
um,
Thought it was interesting. So yeah, so we're heading to Vulcan.
oh
Sarek is there, and I thought that was an interesting choice. Um, I figured he'd take his own ship or whatever, or
yeah,
do whatever. But then he said, I never tire of seeing home, and I thought that was kind of emotional, honestly.
a little bit,
Um,
yeah.
it's not really the logical thing to do, but I like it anyway. Whatever Sarek does, yeah, I like it. So, um, yeah, interesting. And then we get to
Oh my
the
gosh,
most intense and awesome reveal of this episode. I think that they
holy
saved
crap!
the best for last.
And they did it so well. Like it was just
Yeah, it
little
was
piece
so
by
good.
little piece by little piece, and like it allowed you to it was like they were adding the layers of the nerdy Easter eggs. Like to like how much
Yes,
of a Star Trek fan are you? When they're like when it shows like at the bottom like on the screen it's like NCC 17. I was like, no.
I know, right? Right?
And then like Captain Pike's, and I was like, no.
I know.
And then they said the Enterprise, and I'm like,
What?
no. I was listening to it I was watching it with a friend over the internet, so we were chatting in Discord chat and on voice chat, and I just like screamed into the mic, and I felt
I
so bad because I was like, ah. I was not
Yeah.
expecting that at all. Like I thought they were gonna steer super clear of the Enterprise.
Well, they said that they were going to, so they kind of faked us out on that one.
I
But yeah,
know,
they're like,
right?
we won't see the Enterprise. You won't really hear about the Enterprise. Like now, I just have my hopes up that we get to see a little Spock next semester, next season. Um, you
So
know,
that's yeah. Okay, so
just a peek. It doesn't have to be like a central theme or anything, but like they gotta see each other. Like I want to see Burnham interact with him and like see how that happens, or
right, because
Sarek,
he's
because
got to be on the ship, right? Because he was
yeah,
Pike's
he's
first
he's
officer.
on there. He's a lieutenant junior grade at this point.
Oh, that's right. He wasn't Pike's first officer. Number one,
He was
that
not number one, was the first officer. Yep.
right, the female from the
Yeah,
original pilot.
that's right.
Yes. Oh
Oh
man.
yeah. So he's science officer Spock right now. So
Yes.
I would love to see him just a little peek. Just we can just see him sitting at the science station. He doesn't even have to say anything. He just has to be there, and that would make me so happy. And I'm sure so many other Trekkies so happy. So just see our little Spock. See how he's doing.
Well, I mean, they can't have him. I mean, he's got two family members on the ship. Like, he can't not say something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then that kind of also raises questions. So, like, let's say he is on there. He and Sarek have had a huge falling out over Spock joining Starfleet.
Right. So,
And
so
we see
they're
that
gonna
in the
not have
original series when,
they don't have a good
um,
relationship.
yeah, they have nothing. And so, they come on board the Enterprise, and Kirk's like, "Oh yeah, you want to beam down and like see your parents?" And he's like, "Those are my parents." And Kirk is like, "What?" Because they're so cold to each other. Sarek has a lot of apologizing to do to Spock, and so it would be interesting to see how far they're going to get into that, if they get into that at all. Which it doesn't sound like they're going to, because I know that they didn't want to make him a Spock, that is a big part of Discovery, but I feel like they got to at least touch on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you seen Supergirl at all in the CW?
I have not.
So they made a big thing about how like they kept alluding to Superman being a character, but they kept saying
Oh,
they were never
okay.
going to show him on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if it was the beginning of season 2 or the beginning of season 3, he shows up and
Oh,
they actually cast him, and he's part of that pilot, and it was a great episode.
oh, cool.
Um, but I'm kind of wondering if that's what they're gonna do with like the Enterprise and Spock. Like they're like, oh no, we're not gonna show him, and then maybe they'll actually cast him, and he'll have a big part in one episode, and then we don't see him again.
That would be great. Like, that's the thing that I want. Like, I do not want him to be obvious, and he can't be. He's on the Enterprise as part of the timeline and canon and all that. He can't be with Discovery, but it would be great to see, um, sort of like did you read the novel from Discovery called Desperate Hours?
No, not yet. I keep meaning to.
Okay, yeah, you got to read that because it's so good. But I would love to see something like the interaction there. Like they get a little bit of an interaction between Burnham and Spock and Enterprise and Discovery, and
Yeah,
I would love to see that in an episode. Just one episode. That would be really cool to see that kind of interaction, um, and almost just to play off the differences between Spock and Burnham because they are
yeah.
so different. Um,
Well, that's the thing. Like this whole time, I've loved the kind of the interplay and like the little like kind of backdoor like relationship canon stuff. Like where Burnham is like Sarek's adopted daughter or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, because obviously, we didn't have that as part of the timeline when the original series or any other series was recorded. And
Right.
so, it's interesting to see this kind of evolve. One thing that I am super curious about is if they will ever involve Cybok, who we see
Oh
in
yeah.
Final Frontier, right? Like, I mean, if Vulcan didn't think this Sarek's family was like already a shit show, like, right? So he's got this like half human son who they consider like an experiment or whatever that old crusty Vulcan guy
Right.
had to say about him. Then they've got an adopted human daughter, Burnham, and then Cybok, who is their full Vulcan son, but he like goes off to, discover himself, basically.
Right.
Like, I
Like
just
the
have to
hipster of the
like
Vulcan Corps.
wonder if the entire planet of Vulcan just thinks like, oh God, when they think about Sarek's family.
So do Vulcans not have like surnames?
Um, sometimes I see a name that's associated with Sarek's family. I've never heard it pronounced, and I've never heard it like said in the show. They do like lineages. So if you remember from
Like Spock, son of Sarek type thing,
what is
or
it? The Voyage Home, not the Voyage Home, the one before that.
Search for
Goodness
Spock?
gracious. Yeah, the Search for Spock. When they are at Mount Salea and they're about to rejoin him in the Faltorpan and all that. And he says, Sarek, child of Scone, child of Solkar, what is your choice or whatever.
Okay.
That seems to be the way that they trace themselves, like patrilineal type deal.
I gotcha.
Um, but they don't, I mean, it's not like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't even know what a Vulcan surname would be, but like, they've got Sarek of Vulcan. They kind of Vulcan seems to be like the uh not denomination, but like designation of choice. So,
Gotcha.
this is Spock or Mr. Spock, or Sarek of Vulcan. Um yeah. So,
That's
I
cool.
yeah.
Random thought. I just realized I'd never thought about that before until just now. But I mean,
Yeah.
does it bother you at all that like we've never heard of Spock having a sister before?
No, I mean, I'm able to explain that away by the fact that this is a new show and they're adding new things and it's gonna be
Right.
stuff that we've never heard of before. It doesn't bother me that, they obviously have to bring in new characters. If they just did the old ones over again, it would be just disappointing somehow. And I love that they're bringing in new characters, new depth and backstory and stuff. I would just be frustrated if they didn't flesh it out with the old characters a little bit.
Right.
So let us see a little bit of Spock. Let us kind of forge that bond a little bit in something that we can see instead of something that we can read. So it's great that we get the novelization where that kind of cements it in canon. But if you see it on the screen, like that's for real, right? So
Right.
I would
Yeah,
love to
it's
see
cool.
any
I
of
guess it's
that
kind
on
of
the
like it's
screen.
the same thing with Cybok, really. I mean, going forward from that point, it's part of the canon. It's part of
Right.
you know.
Not that we really ever see him again or anything. He's kind of just in
Right.
that one movie, and that's kind of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's
Good
now an
stuff.
established part of that for good or bad, right? I know a lot of people didn't like that movie, but
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real, it was a little weird, but enjoyable enough to watch, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um so, and I mean, anytime you go previous in a timeline, you have to add things in that's not part of the original. So, that's kind of my feeling is, well, you're adding to the timeline. I like it.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool. I
yeah.
feel the same way. It's a topic I've seen on some forums and stuff lately, so I thought we could chat about it.
Same. Yeah. A lot of people are kind of not dissatisfied with it, but they're not as accepting.
Yeah.
And I understand that if they had really changed, like, I mean, and it's in some ways they kind of have. They've made Sarek kind of a more understanding and like empathetic character than he was in the original series.
Yeah.
Like I loved Mark Leonard's Sarek, but the dude was kind of a jerk. And so, when we get to see this kind of more caring and emotional Sarek, very interesting. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I like that because so many people think that Vulcans don't have emotions, but that's not true. They have very deep emotions. They just choose to control them using logic.
Right.
And so I like that. Not that we get to see that mask slip a little bit, but like we kind of do, on occasion.
Yeah.
Lethe, we got to see Sarek's shame around, Michael's, transition into the Starfleet world as opposed to the Vulcan Expeditionary Group. We get to see, him trying like racing like a madman, trying to fix the Federation in any way that he possibly can. We see him, in this episode, like you and I were messaging as I was finishing the episode because I started it a little bit later than you did, and I was saying, "Oh my god, I think Sarek just like mini smiled at Burnham, like as he turned away." We get to see these little glimpses of what seems to be a very like caring and like deeply emotional individual. So he's not all pomp and circumstance and logic and nothing else. He's not a concrete, he's not a stone. Um, he has a little bit more humanity or emotion to him, and I like that. I think that's true to um, who he is really, rather than just bound by what people should think of Vulcans or would think of Vulcans.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of that wonderful scene from the reboot when Spock asks his father why. I think it was why he married his mother.
Yeah, yeah. He said, "Why did you marry?"
He says,
I
"I
told
married."
you once why I married your mother. I said it was because of logic, but it's
Right.
really because I loved her.
Right. I
Yeah.
married her because I loved her, and I was
Yep.
like, oh, that is so like it's beautiful in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Like,
think a lot of his like unemotionality was because he wanted Spock to be Vulcan, and I think that if he showed any part of himself that was emotional, that would almost confuse Spock.
yeah.
And so he tried to be like the best Vulcan of the best Vulcans.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think it's because Sarek understood what Spock finally understands in the sixth movie,
yeah.
where he tells Valeris, "Logic is the beginning of wisdom, not the end."
Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I think Sarek knew that long before. Um,
Yeah.
And but at the same time, he's right. He's trying to help Spock establish that foundation.
Right.
Because if you have to a Vulcan, once you have that foundation, then you can kind of understand when it's appropriate to let that slip a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to become the Romulans and just let emotion rule them.
Right. Well, and in Enterprise, they kind of explore that in an episode called Fusion, where they have a crew of Vulcans who they call them Vitosh Couture, which is Vulcans without logic. And these people, like, they are basically, I mean, they're like friendly Romulans, if you can think of that way. Um, they the Enterprise discovers them kind of limping along in space, and they need some different repairs and helps and stuff. Some different parts. And Archer invites them onto the ship, and they're talking, and their first indication that something is weird is that this captain is like grinning at Archer on the view screen when he's like, "Oh, that would be so wonderful. Like, we would be so appreciative of any help that you could give us." And Archer's looking at DePaul like, who the hell are these people? And like, what the heck is happening right now? And T'Pol, she just kind of raises her eyebrow at him, like, "Oh yeah, I've got questions too." And they come on board, and they're having two of them are having dinner with Trip, Archer, and T'Pol in the captain's quarters. And it's obvious that they are not your typical Vulcans. One of them eats meat and is like very excited about this. One of them is describing, the intensity of emotions and how, logic and emotion can coexist happily with a Vulcan. And T'Pol is just saying over and over again, you know, you're trying an experiment that has been done many times before and has always failed. Like, Vulcans cannot control their emotions. They're too deep, they're too wild. You have to have that like on lockdown basically. And this Vulcan is like, and yet here we are, like,
Right.
doing our thing. And Paul's like, what you're doing is dangerous, and the most dangerous part of that is that you don't even realize it. And
Yeah.
I won't give away the end of that episode, but some crazy stuff happens that really proves to Paul's point, that Vulcans who do not have control over their emotions using logic, it can be a dangerous deal. And then, of course, we all know how the Romulans are through the next generation, and even a little bit in the original series. But
Yeah.
and then DS9, we get a little bit of Romulan action, and not so much in Voyager, obviously, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, in Next Generation, they dealt a lot with the Romulans, which I like them as kind of a villain species. They're very smart and very cunning, and they use their emotions almost as a weapon. Um,
Yeah. The Romulans are one of my favorite
they're
species.
so good.
I like. They're so much smarter than the Klingons. In my
Yeah, they have this like warped sense of honor, though, right? It's like a warrior race with like kind of a moral compass. I mean, it's a little skewed, but like they
Right.
have their basic tenets where there's lines that they just like won't cross. As where the Klingons, it's like, nope, like death before dishonor. Today's a good day to die. Let's kill everyone and everything that doesn't agree with us, and to hell with them.
Right.
Um, so the Romulans are an interesting kind of foil to the Klingons
I know that they're not
a
really
villain
specifically
race.
discovered until the original series, but I would love to see them in Discovery.
I would too, even if they didn't call them Romulans, since they haven't discovered them. Or
Right.
maybe we go alongside that episode and Discovery gets to experience them, kind of as an after type situation,
Yeah. I
depending
mean,
on
we're only
timelines.
gonna have to bury the spore drive and the mirror universe. I mean, just well, what's one more thing to have classified for some reason?
That's very true. Yeah, that's very, very true. And they kind of open themselves up for that too.
Yeah. So one last little thing before we finish.
Yeah.
How did the Enterprise look? Do you think it was pretty awesome?
Oh, I loved it.
I thought it was beautiful.
She looks beautiful.
Like it looks very similar to the original design.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the little needle on the deflector array and everything.
Mhm.
But it
Mhm.
obviously matches the Discovery aesthetic.
Yes. Yes, it
Uh,
does. They brought the Enterprise into the future,
yep, it looks
into 2018.
amazing.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Do we know, speaking of that, I said I can't wait. Yeah, how long do we have to wait for this next season to drop?
I don't think they've announced anything yet, which is
Ugh,
sad.
dang it.
We've
All
got
right, guess we just got to watch this over and over and over and over again.
there you go, exactly. Excellent. All right.
Yeah,
Well, I'd like to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thanks
sounds good.
everyone for listening. Thank you to Annie for joining me again.
Always.
Uh, Obviously, this is the end of our coverage of the first season of Discovery. I think we're going to maybe kind of do. I think next week I'd love to do like a season one in retrospective, like kind of in review discussion.
Yeah.
And then eventually you and I are going to watch Enterprise together because I've never seen all of it.
Yes.
So we're going
Yep.
to cover that as well.
Oh, I'm
So,
excited.
if you're enjoying our discussions, stick around. We're going to have plenty more to come about Discovery and
Yep.
other Star Trek topics.
Mhm.
So join us again next week for another great discussion, and we'll see you then.
Live long and prosper.
Bye.